Welcome to the Project with Sam and Lewis, the podcast that looks at projects throughout pop culture and history. I'm Sam.
And I'm Lewis.
And on today's episode, we are going to be talking about the Zeta Project, which is a cartoon from 2001.
We certainly are.
Before that, though, how are you today, Lewis?
Yeah, not bad. We've kind of gone back to recording on a weekday evening. Right, yeah. So obviously come from work, both of us.
Yeah.
But yeah, fine. Yeah,
good.
Usual after work tiredness.
Yeah,
but
I was gonna say.
That's
I think
just
this
life.
is one of the first ones we've done where I've just finished. Oh no, we did that last week as well, didn't we?
Yeah.
But yeah, getting used to that. So kind of just keep going from work and just kind of carry on into
our
second jobs.
Feels like that sometimes. Well, when we watched My Science Project, it definitely felt like a job.
Yeah, it depends on the quality of the content that we're
but I kind of split this one up because we watched 2 episodes.
Yeah, I did as well.
I watched one last night and one when I got home from work today.
Yeah, so we've watched the first 2 episodes of season 1 of the Zeta Project.
Yeah.
So compared to normally we look at the highest rated one, or maybe do the 2 highest rated.
Yeah, we
finales.
did for MC Squared and Blue Book.
Yeah, we thought we'd change it around a bit, and because we thought, maybe this one's got like legs to carry on. Yeah, we thought we can move through it, maybe do some highlights or something.
There's only like 26 episodes of this, so we could smash through that at some point.
I mean, not
in one go, obviously.
Not that we don't have enough stuff, but
no.
But maybe something that could, be a thread that goes through.
I mean, it might be fun to revisit.
See how both of us felt about it. See how you guys feel about it. Some consistency for once.
Yeah. If people enjoy this, then we're more than happy to then do episode 3 and 4 at some point in the near future.
Yeah. There's some particular ones that I've found out things about that I'd definitely like to revisit at some point, a little bit later in this season. But we'll get to that at the end.
Yeah.
Before we get into the topic of the episode, any timestamps and all that are in the episode description. So if you want to skip past project news, I don't know why you'd want to do that, because it's probably the absolute highlight of the episode.
It really is. It keeps you in the loop with what's going on in the world.
If you want to skip ahead, feel free. Or you can skip right to the end and just, have a little bit of...
Maybe people just like personal projects.
Or even just literally the very end of the thing.
Oh, they really like hearing us say goodbye and give us a review.
Hear you next week.
Hear you next week.
But as normal, we've got project news. I was about to say personal projects.
No, that's later on. So yeah, as usual, I've just Googled the word project. I've got one from there and one like I've done a couple of times that I've searched out. But we'll do the first one first, because it just made me laugh, because it's from The Express,
right?
The British newspaper, which is, for those not from Britain, it's one of those proper like right wing, like will write the most nonsense stuff.
Yeah, inflammatory kind of tabloids.
Yeah, and their logo is literally like a crusader holding a shield with St. George's cross on it.
Which says enough about it, doesn't it, really?
But anyway, a very unsurprising headline from them is Macron, French president, disconnected from reality as he snubs EU and launches project to counter Russia.
Cool.
It's basically about how France are planning on building nuclear power plants to ramp up its energy security, because so much of Europe's energy comes from Russia.
Right, yeah. Which I think we've touched on in previous episodes. We were talking about
we talked about the pipeline.
And
but yeah, like nuclear power is actually one of those things that's actually cleaner than people realise.
Yeah, it's quite controversial because of, I was going to say things like The Simpsons, but I'm sure it hasn't helped the image of nuclear power.
But like Chernobyl.
Yeah, that's probably the better one, It shows where my loyalties lie, I was going to say, but you know what I mean.
I think the EU aren't massive on nuclear power, but like, because Russia has such a strong stranglehold, France is going to build nuclear power plants. Just made me laugh that like The Express are just, as they always do, trying to sow seeds of doubt within the EU.
And it's really like smear campaign all the time on everyone that they disagree with.
They're one of those ones where you see like the before and after pictures where they have a headline about, British fishermen are going to do so great after Brexit. And then the headline like, British fishermen getting fucked over by the French because of Brexit.
And we're like, well, anyone who has the whatever to put the two together could see that they're just taking the side that's winning or losing, as it were. But
yeah. But it's pretty nonsensical article. I won't go through it because
no, please don't. We don't want to be tainting our listeners.
Anyone that is listening, if you haven't heard of The Express, don't bother searching it up.
Yeah, don't bother.
And then the other one goes back to a bit of news that we looked at during Project October.
That's right, yeah.
When we were talking about the Halloween project.
Oh, yes, we were talking about it, yeah.
That Marvel would do. And we originally thought it was this year. Obviously, it wasn't because I was way far ahead of time.
I think it was like we recorded just before October.
Yeah.
It was one of the first ones. And you were like, oh, I think it's this year. And we were like, oh, that's cool.
It's been kept under wraps. Obviously wasn't.
Like, no, they actually promo stuff quite ahead of time. Which makes sense.
Makes sense for, Disney.
Yeah. Did you see, actually, before you go into it, that the Ms. Marvel it is technically.
Ms. Marvel, yeah.
TV show is supposed to be potentially after Hawkeye, so like at the start of after Christmas or start of New Year. It's been pushed to the end of 2022.
Oh wow, that was quite a push.
And part of the speculation is because there were some leaks about some like concept art leaks, but they were like in full quality. It's like seems like sowing seeds. And instead of, I don't know how familiar you are, Lewis, with her power set, she can it's a bit Mr. Fantastic, but more she can grow as well, kind of thing. Right. So it's kind of imagine Giant Man mixed with
like Finn the dog in Adventure Time.
Absolutely, spot on, Finn the dog. And she's, quite popular over the last 10 years or so since she's been introduced. And the image was instead more of imagine a purple Green Lantern fist.
Oh, no.
And rumours that it was some sort of crystal that was tied into her, like, Islamic heritage and, like, to do with genies and stuff. And obviously the reaction's like, fuck that.
Yeah.
But the people who are kind of maybe supporting it are like, oh, maybe it's to do with, they're going to introduce Mr. Fantastic. They don't want to overshadow him, which I guess is fair in a way.
Yeah, but still.
But people are now speculating they're delaying to, I guess, redo CG or maybe refilm certain parts of it.
Yeah.
Which isn't a good sign. But if they're doing something, a la like Sonic the Hedgehog or whatever, redoing stuff. If it works out for the best, then,
they've got a year to do it.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, if they filmed a lot of stuff, they can just change. I mean, I don't know how they're going to do it. It might not even be that, but it would make sense. The pieces kind of fit together.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, Halloween project.
Yeah. So as we mentioned, they were looking for a man in his 30s of Latino origin to play this werewolf. And they've cast a guy called Gael Garcia Bernal.
Yes.
Whose name I don't recognize. I don't think I've seen him in anything. But he's going to be starring in Werewolf by Night.
Yeah.
Which will come out next Halloween, believe it or not.
It's quite a quick turnaround, though. You think? Like,
yeah, although I don't think
it's a short series, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
maybe
I don't
even
think
like
most of these series take more than a year to like put together.
He looks super familiar, but I just don't know what I know him from.
Yeah,
I mean, he's in quite a lot of Spanish language films, like Latin American, South American.
Yeah.
Stuff. Yeah, I mean, people will probably recognize him. He'll have a big fan base, I imagine, in like the Latin community.
But
that's good stuff.
I think it'd be quite interesting to see like a Marvel go down like the horror route to see.
Yeah, definitely.
It's also to see like how far they'll go with it, because
I mean,
we're both fans of the MCU, but it can be quite like timid.
He was in Babel, which was I think maybe like an award-winning one. Brad Pitt was in it. It was kind of like an ensemble.
I think I heard
film.
of that actually.
And the director did The Revenant and Birdman. Alejandro G. Inarritu.
Yeah, didn't he? I think he won Best Director like 2 years in a row.
Yeah,
because he did The Shape of Water as well.
No, it was Guillermo del Toro.
Oh, what did he do then? Inarritu.
Revenant, he would have won for, and Birdman and Revenant. Yeah.
Oh, Birdman and Revenant. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
The two that I just said, but yeah, of course. Yeah,
I didn't hear you say
no. Cool. Yeah. So that's So he's worked in like big films before anyway. Gael Garcia Bernal. But yeah, I think I was going to look it up, but we'll kind of move on. But Moon Knight with Oscar Isaac
yeah,
is I think supposed to be. I think that's the first kind of horror stuff.
Right. I
guess
in this article mentioned that Ethan Hawke is going to be the villain in
that. I think speculated to be some sort of vampiric thing.
Yeah, some people have mentioned like Morbius. Did you see the Morbius trailer?
I did, and it's confused about which universe it's in.
Yeah.
I think that's obviously intentional, and like
I feel like Sony really want their films to be folded into the MCU.
Well, he references Venom in the trailer, which is weird.
Yeah.
He's like, I am Venom. And he's like, I'm just kidding to this guy. And you're like, what the fuck? Like,
but yeah, it's also obviously Michael Keaton's in it.
Yeah.
Is he playing the Vulture?
I mean, he's wearing like a prison outfit, which we last saw him in at the end of Moon Knight's 2022. I think there's rumors that Blade is also going to come in that. And then it will kind of lead to like because they used to do the Marvel Knights imprint, like KNIGHTS, which was like the adult band of comics. So I think maybe they're kind of do a similar thing here.
It makes sense for Blade because Blade's quite well known thanks to the obviously there was the film in the 90s.
Snipes films,
But obviously he is part vampire and hunts vampires, so it can bring in that kind of element of stuff into the MCU, making this Werewolf by Night more accessible, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think, and especially if it's a mini Halloween thing. Yeah, I think it'll be good stuff. It'll be a good year for Marvel stuff, really.
It should be.
Many things don't get pushed back even further.
Yeah.
But now we've got Miss Marvel in there as well, so all good.
Yeah, cool.
So we'll move on to the main topic of the episode. Then.
The Zeta Project.
Zeta, or do they say Zeta?
I kept like tripping myself over. Saying Zeta.
I
think it's Zeta actually.
I'm a Zeta person, so it's like beta and beta.
Yeah. Beta, Zeta.
We'll
call him Z. Like
we're all a bit Americanized now, aren't we? With our lingo. God, those damn
Americans pronouncing things differently.
Not you guys who listen. So as we said last week, we're
you're the good ones.
Everything that affects any of you guys. If you like the Express, we agree with you. No, not that.
No, we're not going that far.
Anyway,
I've got the Google summary here.
Yes,
short and sweet, just a simple sentence.
Mm-hmm.
A robot rebels against its creators, refusing to kill, and goes on the run.
Very short, very sweet. I guess it makes sense, and it kind of does encapsulate it.
Yeah, because I mean, we're talking about a 20-year-old kid's cartoon.
Yeah.
So why not?
It's quite. So I think this is the first cartoon we've done since. Well, we did Devilman, which was a 70s anime, so completely different origin and era. It's quite kind of bare bones in a lot of ways. The story kind of moves at a kind of crack and just keeps going.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of MC Squared in that way. It's just like bam, bam, bam,
bam,
bam.
Like I was started to write note. I mean, I've written. I think it sounds like more than you from what you said at the start, but literally like. If the reason we did the 2 episodes is because they're 20 minutes each, and a lot of that is kind of action and stuff, so it makes sense to kind of.
I started writing like loads of notes, and I was like, I can't keep up writing and watching.
What did you think? Kind of overall, kind of going into it, kind of thing before we.
Well, I was kind of aware that it was a spin-off of Batman Beyond.
That's right, which I think when it aired here was called Batman of the Future. I don't know if you ever remember that.
Right, no, I don't think I
think
ever
I
watched
saw it
on.
I had like what would you call cable TV in America or like satellite TV. I had that for a very short time in my childhood. And I think that was one of the times I caught a bit of this. Right. And I was like, yeah, cool.
So, there's a single episode of that called Zeta where this robot is introduced.
Which I did manage to watch as well. So I thought I was going to get you to watch it, but I thought there's no point in
I didn't get the chance.
burdening you with extra responsibility. It's pretty good. I'll talk about it at the end. We'll focus on this. But different. The cartoon is a very different tone overall. And potentially, I wish we could watch that one instead. But anyway, we'll carry on.
Okay.
So, any information about it other than that?
Yeah, created by Robert Goodman, who worked on Batman Beyond. It's Batman Beyond spin-off. Some of the people in it. So the main guy is Diedrich Bader.
Oh yeah, who's that? I recognise the name.
See, he was in Batman Beyond, obviously, because I think he voices Zeta.
We might do, yeah.
The main thing I actually recognise him with is he's in BoJack Horseman.
Right.
You know Judah, who's the assistant to Princess Carolyn.
Oh yeah.
He's got like the beard and the top knot
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah,
He
yeah.
plays him, and you can kind of hear the voice.
Yeah, actually, now that you say that, I kind of can.
Yeah, he just sounds like a bit older in BoJack, which makes sense. There was loads of other people in there, but I didn't really pick on much of what they had done. There is Kurtwood Smith, who was in that 70s show.
Right. Okay.
I never watched it, so I couldn't really pinpoint who he was in that. And Michael Rosenbaum, who played
Lex Luthor in Smallville.
Yeah.
Yeah. What in the episode we watched, particularly? Do you know?
I don't know. He's just listed on Wikipedia as part of the cast. Because it's like a 20-year-old cartoon, it's not too specific on these things. Maybe you'll be able to find out.
Yeah, I'll have a quick
now.
look while you're talking.
And the other person that I did recognise is Lauren Tom, who played Julie in Friends.
Right.
You know, when Ross goes to... Is it China he goes to?
Yes, it is. And I was watching a bit of that recently. While he's away, Rachel finds out that they fancy each other and all blah, blah, blah.
And he comes back and he's got a girlfriend, Julie. Timing. Yeah. So, yeah, she's in this.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, that's kind of the main...
It's the guy, the agent who's like the young agent who keeps getting stuff wrong.
But
that's Michael Rosenbaum. That's Michael Rosenbaum.
That's so weird. Yeah. I thought he might be like Bennett or something.
Yeah, I was going to say that, but no.
That was bizarre. But yeah, apart from that, is 2 seasons of it, 26 episodes total.
Yep.
So fairly short and sweet.
Yeah, I started reading an article about its cancellation, but I didn't get too far through because I was on the bus and I had to.
What's any particular reason it was cancelled?
I didn't get to it.
So you read it was cancelled.
Almost no point in bringing that up, but I thought I'd have complete transparency.
Cool. So you brought the knowledge that all the listeners probably already knew that this show was cancelled.
I've got it on my phone, so you carry on talking. I'll just ignore you and read this.
I mean, it's an early 2000s cartoon, so I wasn't really expecting it to have like a long shelf life, especially as it was a spin-off of a more popular show. It
said it ran for 2 seasons and was cancelled mostly because of a conflict over where the story should go next. That's what that's sci-fi.com says.
That's not a bad reason. Like, if you run out of story, I mean, we're given the base as it said in the Google description. It's like there's this robot who...
Oh, there's a podcast here about the Zeta Project. So don't listen to that. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you any information about it.
I've actually heard that really boring.
Because also it was from like 3 years ago, so we're much more.
They're not very current. They don't talk about Macron and...
No, exactly. They probably don't even know who he is.
Yeah.
Because they're American, probably. So anyway,
unfair dig there.
Moving on.
So yeah, first episode is called The Accomplice.
Yes, and we're introduced to Z or Zeta as he's known.
Yeah, there's like we're in a shopping mall and there's like an old man who's like plugged into a.
It's kind of like a cyberpunky setting.
Yeah, it's kind of like neo-futuristic.
Yeah, it's very like neo-futurism, like almost like not as cartoony as like the Jetsons, but kind of like in between cyberpunk and what people in the 60s thought the future.
Yeah,
would be like.
It's almost like it's set in modern day, but if everyone had like hover cars and things like that. We'll talk about it when we talk about Batman Beyond, but they've taken a little bit of a detour. That's a lot more futuristic and kind of, but then it's also Gotham, so it's a whole different thing. Yeah, Gotham's a shit.
It's quite bright and it's quite like
it's like clean future.
Yeah, it's almost, I don't think it's set in necessarily California, but it's that kind of vibes, like a future California kind of thing. Reminds me of like maybe an Arnold film, like an Arnold Schwarzenegger film about like the future, like Total Recall or something like that. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of,
except like clean.
Yeah, like a clean, but that's also polished. Because one of the things, I know we're trying to get into the plot. One of the things, the animation was kind of not that appealing to me because I like the style and like the character designs mostly. Yeah. But it was like weirdly flat and not shaded. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah, really. I know what you mean.
Because when I watched the Batman Beyond episode afterwards, like it's partly because it's dark and Gothamy, but there is like shading and depth to the characters, even though the designs are quite similar.
I imagine there was a bigger budget on Batman Beyond.
It does feel a little bit cheaper, but yeah. So we're in like a public place, shopping mall or something like that.
Yeah, and there's like a little like it looks like a photo booth, but it's like an internet booth. And there's like this old man sitting there, and then like a wire comes out his arm and plugs into the computer, and you're like, "Ooh, this is interesting." And then these like feds, as they describe them, turn up.
Yes.
Led by this agent Bennett, who
the
guy's also trying to get in contact with.
So he like kind of hacks the mainframe or whatever, and it comes up like NSA level 9 clearance, and he's on a video chat to like Bennett, who's this agent wearing like green visor, like Cyclops glasses, kind of thing, isn't it? Yeah.
But whilst he's like trying to talk to him, the NSA like turn up.
Yeah.
And they've got like these things that detect who he is, like 'cause he can disguise himself, it turns out.
So he's a robot. You see him in the intro, which we kind of skipped over, but it's kind of just a generic intro of them running around. He's like what is he, like a tall, kind of thinnish kind of robot guy, like light grey with green eyes, I think. He's got little compartments or black eyes. He's got little like round eyes.
Tiny little eyes.
Kind of cute, friendly face kind of thing.
Yeah, he kind of reminded me of in Rogue One.
Very much like
what's his name?
The guy who's voiced by that guy.
The guy is voiced by that guy. But
he's got little yellow eyes, and he's got weird like little compartments on him that kind of look like hands grabbing onto his like boobs.
And
he can project a hologram of different people on him, because as we find out, he's like an infiltration unit, and you're supposed to be like a spy and go on missions, and he's kind of gone rogue, which we're kind of finding out in this intro. Because he says to Bennett, doesn't he, he's like, I don't want to kill anymore.
So basically what has happened, we find out sporadically he was like a NSA like almost killer robot who I think there was an instant where he was asked to kill someone innocent, and he was like, I don't want to do this anymore, so he's gone rogue.
That's exactly,
and they think his program has gone wrong, so they want to capture him and turn him off.
And like you said, they've got they've got little goggles, like night vision things, and they can see, they hold them up to their eyes, and they can scan people, and they can see through his holographic disguise. So although it's useful in some ways, they can get through it quite easily, which is quite a good little thing in the plot, isn't it? Yeah, and they spot this old man. They see that it's Zeta, and they start like shooting at. Is it like the young agent who's Michael Rosenbaum? I think starts just immediately shooting.
Yeah, he's just running through this like, and then after that they're like, no more guns.
After that first incident, they like take his gun away, and they chase him, and he like sneaks onto a bus, doesn't he?
Yeah, because he can disguise himself. He disguises as the like ticket collector.
Yeah, so they run past and go onto the bus,
and then the actual ticket collector comes up and he changes and gets on the bus.
Yes, yeah,
and
it's away. It's like Spring City, isn't it? The bus.
Spring City, yes. It's like action start before we really know what's going on. So a lot of that infiltration. We get a little intro in the intro theme bit, and he's like, I was built as a weapon to destroy, but will not destroy anymore. Yeah. And we see him running around with this girl who we haven't met yet, and I think we meet her in the next scene. So it then cuts to a police station. And this like young girl, probably like early teens.
It's hard to tell. I think in the intro, I thought she was older, like maybe like 18 or 17. Right. But in this bit, it's hard to tell. She lives at a girl's home on, I think they say Gang Street. Wow, that's really heavy-handed.
But she's in the police station because she's stolen a load of food and she's like run away.
She was like shoplifting, and she bumped into the security guard on the way out or something, didn't she?
Yeah. And then
she's called Rosalie Rowan, I think, which is Ro.
Yeah, throughout the whole first episode of my notes, she's Runaway Girl because I missed her name.
I think it's Ro, but I started writing R and Z because they say R and she says
Ro and Z, they call each other.
But she's quite like sneaky. She's like a smart,
quite like street smart kind of girl.
While the security guard is like typing away, she nicks his keys
and runs off with all the food and turns up at like this really like dodgy area. With like,
it's like a cyberpunk gang, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. And she like gives them all the food. She wants to be part of the gang.
Oh yeah, because he says, the security guard is like, you get fed at the home. I don't know why you need this food, but it turns out she's obviously run away from the home, and she's
trying to get in with this gang, and they're just like quite dismissive of her.
Yeah, they're quite dismissive. And the main guy, I don't know what he's called, but he's like a bit of a dick, and he's like, it's the classic initiation thing. He's making her do loads of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it's either immediately or like in the next scene, he's basically like, your next step is to help us with a robbery, basically.
Yeah.
And we find out they call Zeta, the agents talking, they call him like a synthoid, and we kind of get a bit more information about his background.
Yeah, which basically like the stuff we've just kind of mentioned.
Yeah.
So he's like,
oh, he goes, because he doesn't really know about being human or like things like that. So he goes to another of these phone boothy things, and he tries to get through to him again.
Yeah.
And they figured out that the bus went to Spring City, and he must have been on the bus. So they're monitoring all the things.
Yeah.
And as soon as he tries to get through, they're in their little weird space van.
Yeah, it's like a bus thing.
It looks really weird. Like I say, I like the designs. Like some of the technology designs quite ugly.
It kind of looks like a submarine type design.
It's like a weird. It's the same kind of colors as Z, I think, isn't it? Like grey and green,
which makes sense.
Which makes sense because
he's one of their robots.
And so while he's being made to hold on the phone in his holographic disguise as some guy, I think.
Yeah,
they're like closing in on his location,
and they mentioned they've got an inhibitor thing that they're gonna throw on his back, and it'll basically turn him off, and they can reclaim him and like wipe his memory and stuff.
That's it. Yeah, I think they want to reprogram him and stuff, don't they? And he knows people are coming because he gets suspicious, so he hides around the corner, and it's round the corner from the bank where Ro is being made to help in the robbery.
Yeah.
I think she's a lookout or something.
Yeah.
And then she refuses to do it. And then the gang guy's like, all right, you're gone. And then she's like, okay. And then he's like, no, you're gone. And then he's like going to kill her in the street. And then
Zeta steps in and saves her. And that's like their first like meeting.
Mm-hmm. And he also has to reveal himself, which means the scanners pick up that he's Z.
Yeah. And then like the NSA close in, and Ro and Zeta like run off down an alley.
I think Zeta gets shot in like the side, doesn't he? He's got like some sparks and wires coming out.
And they get to like a dead end, and she's like, I can't open it. And then he like uses like a laser.
Yeah, because he gets like a laser out of him, and then she's like, oh, as if he's gonna kill her. And then it shoots like a door, and he goes.
And there's a car on the other side, and Zeta climbs in, but he's like dying, and he's like, save me.
Yeah, and then she's like, okay, and gets in, like pushes him. I think she just pushes him into the other seat. He's just like a box of scraps. And then she kind of agrees to help him, and they end up in some sewers. They're like hiding from like searches, aren't they?
And she like does something, and then he kind of like self repairs from there. I think she like turns him on or something.
I think she turns him on. Yeah, with the self repairing bit's cool because he gets like to his little like slit compartment bits. He's got like 6, like 3 on either side of his like chest. Like a little arm comes out while he's like almost like knocked out. And just starts like patching him up, and it's like, quite cool.
Wires
like,
back together, and we get like a shot from like inside him that slowly gets darker as he's patched up.
It's pretty cool. Like I quite like that bit.
Yeah.
He talks a bit about the US government infiltration thing that he was replacing.
Yeah, he was saying like he was made to destroy, but he doesn't want to destroy anymore. And that's when we find out that like he gave up because he was asked to kill someone innocent.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then it's the next day, I think.
They go for dinner, and we find out that like he's got an unlimited like credit card.
He can generate as much money as he needs. And then obviously she's like, "Oh, I'll help you now."
Yeah, she's like, "Oh, I need some clothes."
It's quite funny throughout this second bit here. Like I think the very final bit is her. Not to spoil it, but she agrees to help him because obviously they're the duo throughout.
Yeah,
and she's like,
she's in the title sequence.
She's like, "You've got to make sure that no one abuses your unlimited credit card."
Yeah,
and then it's like implying that she's obviously doing it for that, at least initially, anyway. But so there's a bit about like teaching him how to be human and disguises and stuff, aren't there?
Yeah, and then immediately what you're saying, she agrees to help because they go shopping because she was like a new...
she's like, I need a new top, and then she's got the top from the intro sequence, and
that's where that came from.
And like I found the bit where she's talking about like things to say. It's quite a short bit, and like how to kind of act and like hold your shoulders and stuff.
Yeah,
it's a bit like Terminator 2 kind of thing.
She's trying to get him to have like a neutral, a go back to like a default even disguise.
Because he's got like a guy who just looks like a robot and acts like a robot.
Yeah, he settles on this like kind of good-looking early 20s kind of guy
with like a little like boy band, like passing friend.
It's very like main character of a 2001 series.
Yeah.
Like.
Well, funnily enough, you should say that. I don't know if you saw what the main character of Batman of the Future looks like. Did you ever see him?
Yeah, I think I've seen images.
I've got a strong feeling that it's somewhat based off that because he looks exactly the same.
He does. Like that's more like there's more animated like hair and stuff.
Yeah, but do you see what I mean? I think that might be like a bit of a reference to that. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, and the NSA is still searching for him, and they start to think that like, oh, his last mission we sent him to fight terrorists. Maybe he's been reprogrammed by the terrorists.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Which like makes you kind of think like, from their point of view, they're probably doing the right thing.
Yeah, totally. I mean, he may well have been, to be fair. I mean, they might have done something that made him how he is. We see that he's protecting people and all that.
Yeah, but they don't know that.
No, not at all. And
I mean, I also found it quite funny. It's the NSA.
I know.
So in 2001, that it's just like the NSA, but like I feel these days it's got a different connotation because we found that they were spying on everyone in America.
Yeah, because there's jokes about it and stuff now. But yeah, at that point, it's just.
It's just like another government agency.
It's just they probably didn't want to be CIA or FBI, so they went NSA. But it's like, yeah, I mean, this is the NSA that we know, extrapolated by like 30 years or whatever.
Yeah, it just maybe because for most of the first episode, I didn't realize it was the NSA.
Yeah,
it was only the second episode where we see the building, the NSA building, and I was like, oh my god, this is the NSA.
Yeah, I think it's the same because it shows it when he's connecting, but that doesn't necessarily mean.
Yeah, and they just refer to him as like federal agents.
Yeah, I just wrote agents for a lot of it, really. But yeah, they kind of hatch a plan, don't they? He wants to find out who his makers were, Z.
Yeah,
and Ro wants to help him because he says he'll pay her like 20,000 or something.
I think it's 5,000.
5,000, and he needs to have like a very specific type of access, which turns out can only be found on their weird submarine tank thing.
He wants to find, like he said, the way to clear his name is to find the scientists that worked on him because they can prove that he can turn good.
Basically, and that he's not been turned by terrorists or whatever. Yeah. And they basically have this plan
where she'll disguise one of the NSA agents. Distract whilst he's disguised as them. So
it turns this is the Lex Luthor, Michael Rosenbaum. Guy. So he's like the young agent who fired early in the original
bit of a
klutz. He's probably like a similar age to Ro, because I feel like that I think he's going to be a continual person. And maybe they'll end
the fact that it's Michael Rosenbaum.
He might turn onto their side, or they might be love interests or something. I don't know. That's not based on anything, but they have like a bit of an interaction. She spills stuff on him,
like some weird green suit.
Yeah, and then she's trying to clean it off and like ends up wrapping him in his jacket. And then he realizes almost immediately, like, "Hey, you're one of the people."
And like he runs out. And
he says, "You're the accomplice," and she's like, "I like the sound of that."
Yeah, roll credits. But then I was like, she hasn't really like delayed him by much time.
No, because while he's doing this, Zeta has changed to this guy.
Yeah.
And has snuck on, and he's like just started hacking. And while he's just started, he's like on his way back.
It kind of reminded me of that bit in MC Squared where she's distracting the guy in the lift, but the whole time she's distracting, they're just watching it happen. And it's like, no, you're meant to be doing stuff.
You use this time to the best of your abilities. Yeah. And then she kind of has the moment that like, forges her destiny or whatever, where she's like, "Oh, I've got the money, I'll just let him go." And then she feels guilty and she's like, "Oh no, I'll try and stop him even more." So she kind of, I don't remember what she does, but she distracts him more.
Yeah, she like runs after and like grabs him, but Bennett sees
the
him
head agents.
And kind of looks.
I think he starts looking at. Oh, is that right? Yeah.
He then turns and sees because he's Zeta disguised as Michael Rosenbaum.
Yeah,
but he's got like the metal wire coming out his wrist, and he's like, "Oh shit!" And he's like, "Get him!"
And then there's like a bit of like a tussle in the submarine van thing.
Yeah, and just as he's trying to get away, they throw the inhibitor out on his back and he like collapses to the ground.
That's right, yeah.
But then that little hand
laser
comes out his
up.
his side and like zaps it off.
Which is funny because surely he's paralyzed, but apparently not. So
yeah, it must be like some sort of backup power generated just for that.
Yeah, I suppose so. And then what is he? Is that when he's out on the street and they've all like roped him?
Yeah, so
they all shoot their like metal.
They've got like guns that shoot like hooks
like
and
harpoony
stuff.
Things
yeah,
almost.
And they wrap him up. But then Ro turns up in like a car.
Yeah, she's like zooming along and she like knocks them all out the way and he kind of jumps in.
And then like rips off the rope and they drive away. And he says, "Oh, I've got a partial download."
Yeah, which is weird because we'll get to it in the second episode, but it's like then not a partial download.
He does say that like he's gonna like decode it and figure out more.
Because as we see it, it's almost like a picture of the end of the project, like a hologram.
It's like a hologram, but it's
and he's in
like
the middle,
half a pixel.
And it's like the team of like 4 or 5 around them, scientists.
Yeah,
and it's like almost complete apart from the heads of a couple of people.
Yeah,
which is quite good, I guess. It's like you've got 2 leads. I think it's 2 guys.
Yeah,
maybe just one. And it kind of ends like, oh, now we've got the clues to.
Yeah, and that's the end of the first episode. And then there's like what turns out to be the end of every episode where he makes like a weird joke.
Yeah, so it's like it says like 21st century artifacts.
Yeah,
is it that bit? Yeah,
yeah.
And it shows like
it's about a light bulb.
It shows a light bulb, and Zeta's like. It's as if he's talking to Ro.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, what's that?" And he's like, "Oh, it's a light bulb. It caused lots of disagreements." And she's like, "Oh, why is that?" And he's like, "Because nobody could figure out how many people it took to change one."
That was it. And
you're like, where?
Yeah. Wait, because that was the first episode. I was like, that's a bit random and a bit weird. But then when they do the same sort of thing,
the second one,
I was like, oh, okay, this could be interesting. I might quite like this.
So it's like a little weird. It's just a joke, really, isn't it?
It's just end the episode on a light-hearted, like future looking back at us joke.
It's very much Futurama where they look at old New York.
Yeah,
it's that kind of thing where like Leela goes to the phone box and she's like, "What's this for?" And Fry's like, people mostly use them for public bathrooms. And
yeah.
she's like, okay. And she goes in to like use the toilet. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the end of episode 1.
Yeah.
So it was quite fast paced.
Yeah.
And like a lot happened, but it kind of came and went pretty quickly.
Yeah, I would say I'm glad we watched it because it's nice to know the intro, even though it's kind of a secondary intro because he's already been introed in the Batman one, but it's the intro of them meeting. And I think compared to podcast episodes we've done where we kind of got to figure stuff out, it's quite nice to just be told stuff in the right order.
Like, it was,
which is funny, isn't
it? On one
side,
yeah. On one side, it was nice to, like, as you said, have that intro episode.
Yeah,
but also, I'm like, there's gonna be better episodes of this. Down the line.
Totally. I mean, to be fair, I think it was rated like 8 out of 10 on IMDb.
Yeah, I imagine because it's quite a niche show. It's probably
that's the thing.
It's one of those that like the only people who are gonna rate the Zeta Project on IMDb are people that really like the Zeta Project.
Yeah. Although, like, there's some lower rated ones on there. I think the next one was rated higher.
Right.
To be honest, I watched both the episodes, obviously, but
oh, did you?
The second one I don't remember quite as much. I think because I watched it this morning before work.
I don't think it's as fast paced because they got so much to get through in that first episode of here's Zeta, here's the bad guys, here's Ro, but also we need to create a plot in here as well.
Yeah, because there's not as much of a plot in the first one, really. It's kind of just them meeting.
There's a bit of like stuck in a situation, how are they going to get out? But I think it's quite one thing that I did like, which isn't very common in like early 2000s cartoons, is it like sets the path for like a season long storyline.
You're right, yeah, because a lot of the time it would be Monster of the Week.
Yeah, even Batman Beyond would have been for the most part different villain each week sort of thing.
I would have watched at least the first couple or random ones when I was younger. I remember the vague intro of him becoming Batman Beyond. And I think that would have ended with him being Batman, and then the next episode is him fighting a villain.
Yeah.
And then maybe some thread throughout, but
for the most part,
because
which I imagine this will do as well, but the main point of each episode will be,
but you're right,
a step towards,
because they want it to be, you tune in each week and you've got a satisfying self-contained story, which because it works for the format, but for us now watching back, you're like, I want something more as an adult.
Like kids TV
more.
back then, like it was because there was no such thing as like Netflix or it wasn't even, you couldn't even record TV at that point. It was like if you missed the episode, you've missed the episode.
Well, you could do a VHS record as you watch it.
But it meant that like they were more reluctant to do season-long plot lines because you want to be able to enjoy every episode individually.
Yeah, that's right. And I think just because I think you're right, it's a mixture of both, because it sets the stage for the rest of it, but also each one is going to be something
the
similar.
Second episode primarily then follows on and progresses this story of him trying to clear his name, sort of thing. I think
probably because we've got the threads of Bennett following them, I reckon at some point there'll be episodes where they just get on in an adventure and maybe Bennett is chasing them. Do you know what I mean? And that's more what we'd expect from a Saturday morning cartoon kind of thing. But
so do you want to give a rating to the first episode?
I think if we do each one, because we kind of discussed it right before.
Yeah, so then if we do revisit.
If we do more, we don't have and pairing them up is a bit difficult because
you might get a really good one and a really bad one, and you're like, I guess I'll give it a 7 overall.
I'm just thinking about it quickly. Do you know what you'd give it?
I think I'm gonna give it a 6.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Because like it's fairly interesting. Like
I mean I enjoy stuff like this.
But it
was fine.
It's a low budget early 2000s spin-off cartoon.
I couldn't stop thinking. I was like, this is like it's fine and it's good and I like weird sci-fi and it's but it was just there wasn't really much to it. And
it's very like superficial.
Yeah, and even just like I said about the animation, like it does look it looks nice, but it looks cheap.
I don't think I really like the design of Zeta. Like
no, well I'll show you. I've actually got it on my phone. I'll show you what he looked like on Batman because it's different. Right. I can see why they changed it, and we'll talk about it in the trivia kind of section at the end. But I'll show you then. But should we move on to episode 2?
Episode 2, So episode 2 was called His Maker's Name. Yeah, so this obviously starts with Previously On, which
was nice because I watched it the next day.
Yeah, same. And it was like, it tells you everything that happened in the previous episode, but in like 30 seconds.
So are you saying we could have just watched episode 2 then?
Well.
Now you tell me. We decided it together.
Maybe I only did watch episode 2 and I've just blagged my way through this first half of the episode. You can tell me
either at the end or when we finish recording.
I'll just let listeners figure out, did I listen to that first episode or not?
I don't know, to be honest. So.
I did.
So this is when it start off and I'm like, now the file's complete, but you've kind of explained that to me.
Yeah, so that he's kind of decoded a lot of it. They're just like driving along somewhere.
They're doing like autopilot, and I thought Z was like controlling it, but apparently the cars just all have autopilot because it's the future.
And they've identified a couple of the scientists. On there, so they're gonna go to a place called Groundwire to go on the internet and look up. Because most of these scientists are kind of not publicly known, but there is this Dr. Arroyo.
Right.
Who's the spelling of his name changed every time I wrote it.
Right. Yeah, I just wrote down Doctor. So.
It's Dr. Arroyo. I started just writing it out phonetically so I could pronounce it right.
But the Groundwire places are kind of like they're almost like Starbucks mixed with like internet cafes.
Yeah, and Ro kind of mentions there's one in every city.
Yeah, and we see later they go to another city and there's one there as well.
I think they go to a third place and there's one there as well.
Yeah. And there's a bit when they go in and there's these guys watching like traffic cams.
Yeah, there's like live Tokyo traffic cam and they're like,
he goes, my brother has a car in London. And I'm like,
look at that.
What?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's supposed to be like some kind of joke,
like an innuendo,
or like future like entertainment is weird kind of joke. But then then it also gets weird because Ro like goes up to them and it cuts to
Zeta like standing outside because she sends him to get her a drink.
Yeah.
She's like, cola or a cola, cherry
cola, root beer, and then he orders one of them all together. Kind of thing.
But yeah, then while he's getting that, these two guys like run off and like, oh my god, that girl's so weird, and we're like,
yeah,
what
they're
has
like,
she done?
She didn't need to do that or something, and we're like, okay,
That's
because
strange.
when they walk in, there's no computers free basically, and she's obviously got rid of them somehow. And they.
So they plug into the computer.
Yes, they plug into the computer. They do the same thing that they've done before, pretty much, where they're looking someone up. But instead of him trying to contact the NSA, he's doing a bit of research with his little
found
thing.
that this Dr. Royal works at some lab not too far from them.
Yeah, it's some sort of aerospace thing.
Yeah,
space
stuff.
Because the whole thing revolves around this space lab kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then their cover, so basically their cover gets blown in this new city almost immediately.
Because a dog runs out into the road and Zeta, being the good guy runs out and holds a car to stop it running into this dog.
And then there's these like big skid marks of him like digging into the ground.
Yeah, and it's got like those two guys who run out, like they're like, whoa, and then they look down and the skid mark's like under their feet and it's like, wait, what?
So it skidded like through them.
Or did they just like move over to there and then get shocked?
That we then hear the NSA agents with Bennett. They've got the police report.
I've then written down the feds are the NSA.
Yeah.
Because this is where we see the building.
Because there's also some reference to Superman as well. Because obviously this is actually in the DC.
Yeah, it's
DC
kind of
animated
not
universe.
very clear because you don't see.
But if
direct references or anything.
But if it is the same Zeta,
then obviously everything that happens in Batman Beyond happened here.
Which Batman Beyond is a sequel to Batman the Animated Series, which is in the Justice League Animated Series continuity, which is in Justice League Unlimited. So all the animated series from the 90s and 2000s are all technically in the same universe, which means that this just takes place not in Gotham and not in Metropolis, and it's just much more normal than everywhere else, which is fine. Because in DC, often
Gotham is like a super weird place.
Like in even in Batman v Superman, it turns out that they're next door to each other.
Yeah, like I have
in Gotham.
heard that like in comics they are described as being fairly close, but in Batman Superman, you can.
They might as well be this. There wouldn't be two cities.
No, they'd be
close.
one city. They're that close.
It's so stupid.
Like, I know they're meant to be close and they kind of...
And like, Superman's never heard of Batman.
Yeah, and it's like, are you kidding me? Like, he literally lives like 2 miles away from you.
Not even that, you could say. But yeah, it's the first reference. I think it's the only explicit reference we get so far. But basically, the NSA are like, that's got to be him, basically.
Yeah.
And then they're sent to that place. So they're kind of onto them, you know, in general. And then Zeta and Ro go to the aerospace place, and there's these hippie guys and girls protesting outside, and they're called Spaceys.
They're saying like space travel should be free for everyone.
You know what? It's actually quite relevant, isn't it?
I know. When they're talking about like privatization of space, I was like, oh, I guess Elon Musk exists in the future.
Like, space is for everyone, man. Like, and then like they keep getting kind of shut down, like by the main characters. Like Rose, like not interested in their messages.
They're those like cartoon, like early 2000s, like over the top hippies that are just like a joke. Like pretty much like a Shaggy from Scooby Doo. Yeah. Like even some of their lines. Like actually I wrote down like space is for everyone, man. And it's like, yeah, of course. There's a funny bit later with with one of those bits, but we'll get to it in just a couple of bits. Yeah. But basically, they want to sneak into this place, and as one of the scientists or whatever is leaving, Z like zooms in with his eyes, which he does a couple of times this episode. Yeah. Scans his lanyard thing he's got on, like the name badge, and then he changes into this guy once he's left. And he's about to go in, and then Rose like, "Oh, but how am I supposed to get in?" And I thought this was quite good. I kind of saw it coming when she says like, he says, "Oh, can you stand on my feet?" Yeah. And then we see this like pregnant woman Although, like, she didn't really seem pregnant as much as, like, just fat. Like...
Maybe, yeah. But
like,
then he says, like, oh, should you be coming into work?
Yeah,
like,
and I was like, that's a bit rude. Like...
So, like, she's kind of waddling in a little bit. And yeah, I think it's supposed to be pregnant, but she's not. It's not super clear. Like, she's quite big in general.
Yeah.
She's not... But then that makes sense because effectively Z is doing a hologram that conceals them both, basically. Yeah. But weirdly enough, has the pass with this woman's face, but it must have the code of the other one.
No, I guess like because he can do whatever he wants.
Which also means that they're just using a barcode scanner because in the future it would be some sort of chip, and maybe he can replicate that, I suppose.
Yeah, I think.
But they scan it and it just says approved, and then they let her in.
I mean, on one hand, like. Well,
on one hand, it doesn't matter.
I think I've got 3 points here to
right. Okay, I'll settle
to take apart this thing. On one thing, we're not exactly sure. I'm not as sure what these 3 points. I'm hoping I can remember. At one point, we're not exactly sure what their technology is. So
it looks like a barcode scanner.
Yeah, but that might just be like words that they just haven't put in the detail. We don't know exactly what it is.
Right.
It could be a chip. Secondly, we don't know Zeta's capabilities. He could change the barcode. He could change the chip.
It is a hard light hologram. No, it's not a hard light. It's just a hologram.
So, but based on what we've seen,
but you're right.
His powers aren't exactly clear. And thirdly,
he might have a little arm underneath that has a chip holding up.
Yeah, exactly.
Very smart.
And thirdly, it's a kid's cartoon, so rules don't matter and anything goes.
That's the main thing. He's also, as I said, changed his design very much since his introduction in Batman Beyond. So I think his capabilities are pretty much whatever the show needs him to do.
Yeah, I mean, this show,
is great, you know?
This show wasn't targeted for people that will question these sort of things.
Well, we picked the wrong topic.
Hey, it's got project in the title. Of course it's aimed for us.
I've been looking forward to this. To be fair, we were going to do this a while ago, weren't we? I don't know when, but we discussed it.
We did discuss it.
I think maybe it was going to be in October, and then we kind of moved
before we
Project
decided on Project October. And we were going to do it right after Project October, but decided to release Cumulus instead.
That's right, yeah, because conflicts of scheduling.
Yeah, and just wanting to put our feet up after a successful Halloween month. Anyway,
they're in a lab.
They get to Dr. Royal's lab.
Yes.
And he's not there. They're kind of looking around. And then like a security drone spots them and turns up.
Which looks like a big...
It's kind of like a robot dog.
Like a Roomba. Or like a Roomba?
Yeah, a Roomba.
Roomba, yeah. I was thinking like a Roomba as a dog.
He kind of looked like, you know, K9 in Doctor Who. He kind of like that, but like in this world's kind of design.
Was it floating or on the floor?
It was floating.
Yeah. I think it was also green and grey.
Yeah, green and grey, because everything's green and grey.
Robots are green and grey, obviously. Everyone knows that.
And this drone starts like attacking them, like shooting at them.
They're like super chill, and they're like, what's this drone here? And they're like, oh, it's probably a security drone. And it does like a sweep on them and then just starts blasting shit out of them. Which is also, I was thinking, is not great for a lab. Because anytime there's anything there, it just shoots the lab up.
Like dangerous chemicals and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're like hiding behind a table or whatever. And Rose like, can't you do anything? And he reaches over with his little hand and like has a look. I thought it was going to be like a gun.
Yeah, well.
But he grabs like something and throws it. And the dog turns around and he jumps on the dog and his hand turns into like a saw, like an electric saw.
Right, okay.
And cuts the dog's head off.
Well, because originally I think she says, can you not talk to it, machine to kill a robot, kill a robot? And he's like, hello. And then it just starts shooting.
Yeah.
And it goes back down.
Yeah, and then he
cuts his head off.
Cuts his head off.
Okay, right.
Did you miss that?
Yeah, I missed that. I don't know what I was eating my breakfast.
It was quite cool.
I mean, I saw, anyway. And then the next bit I saw was they're leaving.
They describe themselves as security.
He's a security guard and he's pretending he's got her and he's like, damn, Spacey. Like,
and they're like, oh, hello, Captain. He turns out to be one of like the head honchos.
Yeah, right. And then I think we see a bit later where, anyway, they end up on the Spacey bus,
the NSA turn up.
That's right. And they start like making a fuss and all the Spaceys are like, whoa, we've made enough of a mess. We're going to go now.
Yeah. And Zeta says to the other security guys, like, go let them in.
Yeah.
And as they go back to their normal form and jump on the spaceys.
And they're just on the back of them. And all the spaceys turn around to them and are like, hey.
They're like, hello. And he's like, nice to meet you, man.
And then we end up at like the spacey compound.
It's like a weird like hippie commune.
Yeah, we heard like sitar music as it goes. Yeah. And it's like,
it's like the classic perception of hippies.
Yeah, there's like, you can imagine, I don't know if all this is there, like incense and lava lamps.
And like daisy chains, like flowers around
there's
their
a
head.
Woman later doing like yoga, like doing stretches above her head.
Like I said, I don't know if all that's there, but I imagine it is.
The yoga woman's definitely there because you see that later.
Oh yeah.
And they
and they kind of
they say until space travel is cheap or free for everyone, available for everyone, we just saw the galaxy with our mind, man.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, so we know what they're doing here. And I think she's like, it doesn't seem like you're getting very far or something. Like she's very like, these guys are like weird.
Yeah.
I guess it's kind of like they're older hippies and she's like a teenager, so she's just a bit like dismissive.
It's kind of like in the early 2000s, a teenager bumping into like 60s hippies.
Yeah,
being like,
that's it.
You guys are lame.
And they're like, you're welcome to stay. Like, are you from space? And they're like, the guy's like, Bodhi over there thinks you're an alien. And it shows him and he's doing the Vulcan.
Hello, yeah.
It's very funny. I wrote that bit down. And then it kind of skips a little bit where Ro wants to sneak back into the facility.
Yeah, but for that, we have a little scene where the NSA find Dr. Arroyo and show him the drone dog and be like, Zeta's dangerous, you're in danger because he's looking for you.
Okay, that's that bit. Yeah, because we get a bit later where there's a bit of scheming going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
But
Ro really wants to go back and Zeta's like, stay here. And then I think he lets her go to the protest so that she's out of the house.
She's like, I'm just going to scale it out. I'm not going to go in. And to disguise herself, she puts on a coat and a hat. And I'm like, you still look exactly the same. Yeah,
she's got like a big, like wide-brimmed hat.
But this is like sort of early 2000s cartoons where people wear the same clothes every episode.
Yeah.
Her putting on different clothes is a disguise.
That's like a big brain move right there,
yeah. So she goes, it's like... looks all the same, but then Dr. Arroyo is leaving the facility.
Yeah, and does she just jump into his car?
Yeah, he like stops at a traffic light and there's cars going past and she jumps in and he's like, who are you? And he's like, wait, are you Zeta?
I think she says like, oh yeah.
And she's like, yes.
There's like a beat and then she's like, yes. And then he's like, oh, he just like starts driving like crazy.
Like metal to the
pedal to the metal
and flies and he's just like screaming
and they're both like and then it does that thing where it does the halfway through the episode black fade out thing. And then it fades back in and they're like
yeah,
and then she's like, I'm not Zeta, and
he's like terrified of Zeta.
And then, very quickly agrees to meet with.
She
Zeta
explains Zeta's situation, be like, he's not actually bad. He doesn't want to kill people anymore.
Yeah,
you're one of the people that could prove that he can be good. Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh, okay. And they set up a meeting.
Yeah, at some like airfield or something.
At first, I was like, it's the classic Project thing where somebody's easily persuaded.
But they actually do explain it in this one, don't they?
Yeah.
And then we go back to... Oh, no, she phones up there.
She phones Zeta from like one of those internet cafes.
Yeah.
It's like, a royal's going to meet you. You need to go to this place with a broken gate.
And then he's like, you weren't supposed to do that. You go back to the hippie compound.
Yeah.
The Spacey's town. Spacey house. Kevin Spacey's house.
Oh, no, don't go there.
It's all right. She's a girl. She'll be all right. No, I think he was very particular.
Yeah, but I still don't think she should go to Kevin Spacey's house.
Ro goes back to Kevin Spacey's house where she'll be safe. And
I think you're being a bit harsh on these hippies, to be honest.
Z goes to the meeting at the airfield. He walks up and he's like, he scans and he can't see anyone else there.
Yeah.
And then he goes out of his disguise and walks up towards...
And then we see that Royal's got an earplug in and we realise the NSA are there talking to him.
And
he's like, lead him into this area and we can trap him.
Like some circular bit of
which they also then trap a Royal as well.
No, they say it's an electromagnetic field. You'll be able to walk through it, but he won't.
Yeah.
So he'll be able to leave, because he's not like a metal man.
And then like Zeta's like, hey, don't be scared.
Yeah.
Like, you can prove that I'm fine. I just want your help.
And then he's like, activate it, starts running on. And then this field starts.
And I was like, oh, he wasn't
again.
easily convinced. He's actually like,
but then almost at the same time as this, what's her face is having the same realization, isn't she? Right.
Yeah.
She's talking to the hippies. She's having a bit of like silly.
She's
jokes
like,
with them.
he was easily convinced.
And then she's like, oh no, we got to go get to him.
And the hippies like drive her there.
The hippies drive her there.
But
the electromagnetic fields, like,
Zeta's walked into the trap.
It's like slowly. It's like
it's really inconsistent.
It's four balls or 5 or whatever, like in a circle,
and
like
they make
spheres.
like a dome of electricity.
And they're
it's slowly
in.
getting, but like.
But
it doesn't look that big, and it's slowly going
really
in for
big.
ages.
And every time we see like some scrap metal on the floor, like bits of robotics from I don't know what testing or whatever. Every time it goes over, when it like shocks and explodes,
like fried.
So we can see that it's gonna like.
And he seems to be running away from this for like ages.
Yeah, and he's calling to the doctor like, don't run,
because he steps on something that's like explosive.
There's a thing that says warning explosive bolts. That's like a giant like case on the ground.
Yeah,
and as it's like shocking, about to explode, Z like grabs him, jumps away, and blocks him, and he's like, "This is the proof."
It blows up.
Is the proof to him that like it's, he's nice, basically.
Yeah, and Royal's like, "Oh my god, you saved my life!" And then turns around, and there's just a hole in the dome, and he's like, "Let's go through there."
So one of the balls that was generating it got blown up.
Oh, I missed that. I just thought that was a convenient hole.
It got blown up, and then he's like, "There's a hole in the field," and they escape together. And then we don't even see them get to the van, do we? Or does the van?
Yeah,
pick them up?
they do. So then the
bus
submarine drives out to like get them.
Right. Okay.
And as it's coming towards them, the hippie bus drives in front and like crashes into the front of it.
Oh wow!
And they all jump out and start with their protesting signs.
Oh right, okay, cool. I missed that bit.
And the NSA are like, get out of our way, and they're like, space is for everyone, man. And then Road jumps off the bus.
What's their like? What's their thing? Is it just spaces for everyone?
Yeah,
because they've got like a repeated.
They've got a few
slogan. There's like one long slogan that's just like spaces for everyone. Is it just spaces for everyone?
I think it might be. But yeah, then Road jumps off the bus as well and meets up with Zeta and Royal.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and they have a bit of like a debrief, and he says, "I'm not the main one on the project."
Yeah, the three of them escape like in a car, and as they're driving away, Royal's like, "Oh, the guy you need to find is Eli Selick. He's the main designer." And they're like, "Cool." And they're like, they're going to arrest you, right? And he's like, "Yeah."
Yeah. And then that's pretty much it, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the end of the episode.
And then we get the...
So it's quite cool because it's like, the plot is like finding a Royal.
It's kind of setting up.
But also it's another step into the...
Yeah. And we get the...
I can't remember what the joke is this
We get the artifact. It's a pen. And they're like, "Oh, this is a writing tool from the 21st century." And they're like, something about the pen being mightier than the sword.
Yeah.
And she says, "Oh, I've seen swords that are better than this." And it's like...
yeah.
It wasn't as good as the first one.
I think they're all pretty lame.
Yes, they are pretty
Although
lame.
I look forward to the next ones. So yeah, that episode is more what we probably can expect from the rest of the series, in that like, now that we know the characters, we know the good guys, we know the bad guys.
Yeah.
Just like a small, almost standalone plot point to continue on the main story.
Like a small step, mini adventure along the way of the finding out the stuff.
Like, there's a good chance Dr. Royal doesn't come back, but he was there as like a step to the next part.
I reckon, probably thinking about it being 2 seasons, I reckon, this is predictions here, they probably find the main people by the end of season 1, and maybe they can't help, and then they set them on a second quest for season 2. I think it's a lot to drag out for 2 seasons.
I got the impression that this would be resolved at the end of season 1, and then season 2 would be a completely different thing.
That's what I mean. Yeah, so they'll
still be. He's not on the run anymore.
I don't know. It's quite maybe. Yeah. It's quite an easy.
Which is why they then cancelled it, because they run out of ideas.
Might be true. Yeah, he's going on missions in season 2, but not killing missions. No killing.
But yeah, so I I think it was a better episode because of that.
Yeah,
there wasn't. It felt like they didn't squeeze in as much. Like
yeah,
it
you're
was
right.
more of a
Absolutely.
natural episode.
It was more like what you'd expect. It was more, there was more like fun stuff as well, like the whole Spaceys thing. Although it's a bit silly, like had fun with it.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, before we do like trivia or any of that other stuff, do you want to give a rating for this episode?
Yeah, I'm thinking if I gave the last one, we both gave the last one a 6. I think
I've just had the realization when we come back and visit these, for one of the few occasions we might actually have to go back and check what our ratings were.
Yeah.
We don't usually bother because inconsistency is part of the fun.
I think I'm gonna go mainly from our revisiting of it today, because I was not super awake when I watched it, as you probably could tell. Some of my memory blanks. I'm gonna go for a 7 because I enjoyed it more, but I don't think it was like, I know those are all relative and they're all all of our ratings aren't really based on the previous ones. Yeah. But I feel like I can't give it an 8. But so I'm gonna give it a 7.
Yeah, see, I was thinking like I'm gonna give it a 7 as well. Partly because it was better than the last episode, and I gave the last episode a 6. So I can't give this a 6 as well.
That's exactly what I mean.
Which is weird because it means 3 things in a row we've given the same rating to after not doing for the first like however many episodes of the pod.
Yeah, I think we were saying about it. Oh god, I just spilled a drink on the sofa. I think maybe Project Power we might have given the same.
Yeah, but I think that was the exception. Now we're on
and that was episode 2, and now we're back to
whatever episode we're on now.
To be fair, also, if you account for guests as well, we're never going to all agree on something, are we?
No.
So.
But I think 7's fair.
I think 7, yeah.
I purposely didn't look up trivia because I didn't want to be spoiled for like the rest of the season.
No, I didn't think about that, and I looked it up, and luckily there's only 2 things on IMDb, and neither of them were interesting enough to remember. So
cool.
The stuff that we did talk about though is the fact it's a spin-off from Batman Beyond or Batman of the Future, as I'm fairly sure it was called in the UK. I will check that at some point.
Yeah, I did quickly read. Joel, I definitely didn't watch it because I quickly read the summary, and it mentioned who's Batman in Batman Beyond. What's his name?
Terry McGinnis.
Yeah, they're like, oh, Terry does this, and I was like, who the fuck is Terry McGinnis? And I was like, oh wait, yes, this is the one where Bruce Wayne is old.
Yes,
it's Kevin Conroy still, isn't it?
It is.
But he's old Batman.
It's keeping the continuity, as I said, of Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah.
Very vaguely.
So I remember watching Batman the Animated Series a bit.
I say vaguely, but
a bit of it, but I never watched Batman Beyond.
I
think I didn't really like the art style when it came out. I thought it was one of those like the main one's done and now they're making like a cheap.
It's very
kind of like, was
though.
there an Ultimate Spider-Man, or what was the Spider-Man series after the good?
Spider-Man Unlimited, I think.
Spider-Man Unlimited.
Which weirdly enough is, because I think we both, I don't know how much we've talked about it on the podcast, but we both watched at least multiple times, I think, the 90s Spider-Man animated series.
Yeah, because it's all on
if anyone
Disney
hasn't
Plus
seen,
as well.
Is phenomenal.
It's absolutely brilliant.
And I will stand by it set the stage for the MCU. It was the first on-screen shared universe.
All the Avengers were in it, X-Men were in it, Daredevil's in it.
The only downside is that it was cancelled, and the storyline of Mary Jane being lost in another dimension, spoilers, is never revisited, even though it was kind of picked up as this one-season flop series, which is effectively Batman of the Future, which kind of is supposed to be the same Peter Parker in the future. I think maybe he was supposed to be following Mary Jane and ended up in the future or something stupid like that. But I've never seen any of that.
One of the first things I watched on Disney Plus was the Spider-Man.
I think it's the same, yeah.
But yeah, I remember when Spider-Man Unlimited come out, it was like, oh, they've already done Spider-Man, and it just kind of looks like a worse, weirder version. And I think I had the same kind of approach to Batman Beyond.
Yeah, no, it is good though, and it had some of the same creative team as far as I'm aware. And they do interesting stuff where it's a mixture of new kind of cyberpunky, kind of gothic cyberpunk villains, and like what would you call it, like second, third generation villains. Like there's a Joker gang who like ride cards around,
right?
like Silver Surfer car. I think they're called the Joker gang, or they're called something like that. And there's like, I think there's like a future version of like Clayface, or Clayface comes back. It's like,
is there any like the son of the Penguin or the son of the Riddler? Kind of
thing. Yeah, it's a bit like that. But I think it would be like grandson based on the time difference. And there's a film which I haven't watched, but it's where I think it goes between Batman the Animated Series and Batman of the Future. So it shows both. And without spoiling, too much of it, it shows how the Joker could have somehow kept himself alive, maybe through someone else into the future timeline.
Whoa.
And he has to like fight him and stuff. And it's
nice.
It's super dark as well. It's like, there's some fucked up stuff in that for like a kid's cartoon.
Yeah, so the episode, there's a one-off episode of Batman Beyond where they introduce this robot who decides he doesn't want to kill anymore. Yeah,
so it's I watched it.
You watched it?
I watched it this morning.
Can you quickly summarize what happens?
Basically, he's at school. I just sent you, Lewis, the picture. So have a look at what Zeta looks like and see.
Yeah.
But
Sam sent a photo.
They're at school. Can you see it?
Oh my god! I wasn't expecting it to be that.
Do you want to describe what he looks like?
So like we described Zeta in the Zeta Project as like looking
humanoid kind of.
Is it
KS2T22 KS20
from Rogue One? This has got like a kind of triangulated torso. The legs are kind of the same.
K2SO.
K2SO, that's it.
Yeah.
But this one has got like a triangulated torso with the arms hanging off like the
kind of like an inverted triangle.
And then the head, whereas in the Zeta Project, it's like a long, like rectangular oval
with two
sort of
eyes
thing.
in the middle. Yeah.
It's like U-shaped.
Like a horseshoe.
It's like a horseshoe, with no eyes on it.
Yeah.
I was expecting to be. It's kept the same color scheme. It's even got the panels as well.
Well, those panels. So the as I mentioned earlier, the 3 stripes on either side in this episode, because he hasn't fully renounced his like violence, as it were.
Yeah.
He pulls out guns from those panels. Like he pulls out like their holsters, effectively.
Right.
Which is quite cool. And basically,
so
anyway,
what's the?
It starts off Terry, who's Batman, and his friend Max. She is like a smart girl, and they're at uni school together, but they're having a lecture. The professor is being a bit weird, and they kind of take note. And as she's leaving, the NSA turn up, or we don't know it's the NSA, but it's the same characters with Bennett, but he looks different.
Oh, it is.
He looks much more sinister. He's got the green goggles and stuff though, and they do the same thing where they scan and they see that we don't see that the teacher's a robot. We just see the teacher start like kung fuing them and jumping around, and Batman's like, "What the fuck?" and runs off to get changed because Max knows that he's Batman, which is weird, but I guess it's just part of the show. And then he turns up and he's like, "Don't you have any respect for teachers?" to the NSA, even though like she's like clearly like jumping around like some sort of like robot or like superhuman.
Yeah.
And then he kind of like is trying to get in the middle of the fight. And basically it keeps progressing, and we find out that the real teacher was kidnapped, and we find out the background through Bennett talking to like the chief of police, and Batman's got like a cloaking thing, a bit like Miles Morales Spider-Man. Yeah. He's like helping the chief, so he's in the room and he hears the briefing. We find out a lot of this backstory. Basically, he was on a mission, which is his last mission, which we heard about, and he decided to go rogue. And we find out from Zeta later that he took the place of a guy who was supposed to be a terrorist, but in taking his place, he had to interact with the family. He like taught the little girl how to ride a bike and stuff.
Oh, Jesus.
So he had to like realize that this guy was like a family man and a human and didn't want to kill him and all that kind of stuff. He kidnaps Max, who's the friend of Terry, and he takes her place, but he's like making mistakes at school about which genders people are when they're talking about it and stuff like that.
Misgendering
people. And Terry tries to kill Zeta, but Max at that point has made friends with him. They have a bit of a thing. They join forces. Stuff happens, and he ends up escaping. And Batman's like, "I'm going to keep an eye on him until he leaves the city." And then I guess he escapes, and the series starts.
I was under the impression that maybe Zeta was like a villain in the episode, and then
only in
the end turns good.
Only in a misunderstanding sense.
So kind of the same as in in the
Zeta
Project.
we're not sure until about halfway when he starts. He brings Max some food after he's pretending to be Max. So it's a bit sinister when we realize it's not Max.
Yeah.
But then he comes back with some burgers and gives it to Max, and she's like, "Oh, now you're being nice." And he was like, "I was always trying to be nice. Did you not?"
Is it the same voice actor?
It's a different voice actor, but it's very similar kind of thing.
Right.
Okay. And and it kind of ends where he escapes on like a tram cable car thing.
So is the universe in Batman Beyond similar to the Zeta Project universe in this kind of neo-futurism?
But it's much more like, imagine like Tim Burton Batman, like super high skyscrapers, like permanent twilight, kind of orange fog kind of thing. Basically Batman the Animated Series. They've got like the flying cars and stuff, but it's almost a bit more extreme and grimy.
The funny thing about Gotham always being nighttime.
Yeah.
Have you played the Lego DC Villains?
I played like bits of those games
where it's you Gotham and Metropolis, and Gotham's like constantly dark and rainy, and you cross over to Metropolis, and it's just like sunlight and like happiness.
Very funny. But yeah, then funnily enough, okay, so this is what I referenced earlier on. So I looked it up, and in episode 8 of season 1 of the Zeta Project, Batman Beyond turns up for an episode. We've got to keep watching to get to that.
I was wondering if you would. I'm kind of a little bit disappointed you've told me that. But I was hoping he would at some point.
I think we would have known when, potentially not. But still, it was, it's a way for us to keep going.
Yeah.
Because that is effectively, that's like 3 more double episodes for us to go.
Yeah.
So we would have got to it eventually, but it's nice to have something to look forward to.
And hopefully it's not like a really shit cameo. No. Apparently it's do you know if it's like a high rated episode?
I think it might be. I don't think it was like super high, otherwise I would have gone to it straight away. But the other thing is, in season 3 of Batman Beyond, Zeta in his current design returns to Batman Beyond. So I think that was after Zeta Project finished.
Maybe we could revisit that.
So I'm thinking potentially we can revisit that. I don't know how, because we've got a very strict project.
What's the episode called?
I don't know.
It needs to be.
I've got it open on my
phone.
Hang on.
It needs to have project in the title. I mean, I feel like you'd remember if it did have project in the title.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing we could do is that it's called Countdown.
No, that's not project.
But the way we could potentially do it is do it as an addition to
the end of the Zeta Project.
If we get to the very end.
Yeah. This feels like an off-pod conversation.
Yeah, I think we'll get back to this. But anyway, there's two options there. Which would be something to look forward to at some point.
Cool.
The other thing is I was going to show you, Lewis, which I will recommend anyone who hasn't seen it. Watch the intro to the Zeta Project, which, Lewis, you have done.
Yeah.
Watch it on YouTube, and then afterwards watch the Batman Beyond intro, and tell me which one you think had more money spent on it and is a better show. And that's all I'll say about that.
Right.
But yeah, overall, I had a good time with it. I know I've been ripping on it, but it was better than a lot of the stuff that we've watched. It was more enjoyable.
If it didn't have project in the title, I wouldn't have watched it.
I feel like a lot of people had that opinion, but not about the project. They just didn't want to watch it.
Yeah,
so that's why it got cancelled.
But it was fine, and I'm quite looking forward to revisiting.
That's what
revisiting it in like the new year.
It's like a safe, not in a lame way, but it's like it's a safe thing we can come back to. We can do some double episodes of. Potentially we could even record some ahead of time and pop them in when we need. When we need
as
a break.
long as we put them in order.
Nah, it doesn't matter about that.
But yeah, I definitely I'm more than happy to go and watch episode 3 and 4 for a few episodes.
Good. Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I'm glad we've got something like this because we will do some more cartoons in the next couple of rotations of...
I haven't really done
I think this is the second one.
What was the first cartoon we did?
Der Buruman.
Oh yeah, of course.
But we were actually we've kind of hinted at it before. We've got a couple of short Saturday morning cartoons that we might combine into like a mega kind of doubles or quadruples.
As many of you know, those kind of late 1930s, 2000 Saturday morning before school, cartoons are like 10 minutes long.
That's it. Like, and if they're 10 minutes and it's 3 cartoons and only one of those 3 has project in the title, we got to be strict with it. So that means we're only watching 3-minute cartoons. If it hasn't got
project in the title, I'm not interested.
We don't want to know, okay? Stop pushing them on us. Like, but if you're enjoying our, cartoon talk here, we'll have more to come.
Yeah.
And if you're not enjoying it,
and I think
keep it to yourself.
Needlessly aggressive.
By leaving a 5-star review and saying, stop talking about cartoons.
Yeah, exactly. I think there is the cartoons we've got shortlisted are like better known and cartoons you'd recognise rather than more obscure like the Zeta Project.
More like a Batman Beyond than a Zeta Project.
Yeah. Cool. So I think that's the Zeta Project.
That's the Zeta Project, yeah.
Or the Zeta Project. Up to you. Whatever you think is right.
The Z Project. So we'll move on to some personal projects, I think.
Let's personal project it.
So I had a quick look at my phone while we were finishing up there. If you thought my attention was divided, you were wrong. I fully had my phone looking at Letterboxd. I wasn't listening to anything Lewis was saying there. I've got a couple of things to talk about. One of which is something that me and you, Lewis, talked about after last recording, and that is the 2010 film Megamind.
See, I don't remember that conversation because we don't talk not on the pod.
Oh, okay. It must have been with Christina.
Yes. Oh, yeah. She did tell me that she talked to somebody that I didn't know.
Well, you were there as well,
Megamind.
so yeah.
Yeah, so it came up last week. After we recorded the last episode, we met up with Christina. We were chatting about stuff. And me and Christina both said, Megamind's brilliant. You need to watch Megamind.
And I said, I've seen it on Netflix. I think I'd put it on my list. And it was just one of those ones, as with some of the DreamWorks-y type ones, they kind of sometimes slip under the radar.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily, watch them until you're, not doing anything on a Saturday morning or whatever. And I just thought, I think me and Amy we're watching through Midnight Mass, which, as I talked about last week,
it's a bit
very
intense.
good, but it's a bit intense. We finished it, very good. We'll highly recommend it, but I won't go into it now. We thought we'll watch an 1.5-hour film, Megamind, instead of an hour episode. Good stuff. I've got to say,
great.
The only thing
Megamind's great. I'll always defend it.
The only thing I didn't like is some of the character designs that are god awful, disgusting DreamWorks stuff. Like Jonah Hill's character looks just awful, but I know that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, but everything, it's a good
I love
kind of
like
parody pastiche of Superman,
subverts expectations, twisting the genre on its head. And the idea of Metro Man.
Yes.
The Superman equivalent just deciding to fake his death and retire.
He kind of just has like a...
That scene where they go down to the basement and find him and he's like, it's great.
It's also funny because if he was Superman, he would have heard them coming. Like, if you think about it in logic, it's like...
I also absolutely love the scene where he's then explaining how he faked his death. And because he can move super fast.
Yeah, he had ages to ponder the decision.
Yeah, he's just walking around basically a time frozen Earth.
Which just shows that there's no way Megamind would ever be able to defeat him. Ever, if he could do that.
But that's kind of the point.
He only won because he let him win.
Yeah.
He
is basically no Superman villain could ever actually defeat Superman.
No, unless they've got the weakness, which he pretends is copper, and it's all very and it's so silly because it's he would have known if it was copper by then. He would have known. Copper's in everything. It's very funny.
It's a very good satire of Superman. It's very good,
and even when he pretends to be his space dad, he's doing a Marlon Brando Superman.
Yeah,
voice and stuff, and there's some good stuff, good performances. I'm glad I watched it. So thank you.
I think we mentioned last week it came out around the same time as Despicable Me,
yes,
which got all kind of the attention. And I like Despicable Me. I think the sequels aren't as good.
Yeah,
but
I think I've only seen
the first one is good, but it did take all the attention away from Megamind.
It's more merchandisable, if that's a word. I mean, you know, the amount of minion memes and
but it's also weird that Megamind's like right hand man is called Minion
as well. Yeah, just
the fish
but he's
in the
also
bowl.
like cute as well. Like, it's you know, it's just not.
He's
quite
kind of like a ugly like predator fish, but made cute.
Yeah, it's not quite as like memeable in that way. You know what I mean? Like,
cool. I'm glad you watched it.
Yeah,
Christine will be delighted to hear it.
I also watched. I think I told you in person. I watched Army of Thieves, which was the sequel to Army of the Dead, but I don't think you watched that, so there's not much point going into it. I thought it was pretty good. Had Natalie Emmanuel from Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah, cool.
I wrote in my Letterboxd review, I don't think she's a very good actress.
Oh no.
And someone liked it who I'm not friends with, so that's good.
Oh, look at you.
Might be her. It was an all right film. It's pretty good, like a heisty film around Europe, kind of joking.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, it's a prequel to Army of the Dead, and there's news reports of a zombie apocalypse in the US, and they're like, "Oh, there's a zombie apocalypse in the US. Let's do these bank heists." And obviously that leads to like more shit in the Army of the Dead. It's a weirdly kind of, it's a weird prequely kind of thing, but it's pretty good. So if you end up watching Army of the Dead. Would
you recommend watching Army of the Dead first, even though Army of Thieves is a prequel?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, it's pretty good. So, you know, it's quite stylish. It's a bit Zack Snyder-y without getting bogged down in Zack Snyder.
Is it Zack Snyder?
No, but it's produced by him. It's actually directed by the lead, who's this German guy, who apparently is seen as a bit of a James Corden by German people.
I'm sure I read something about Army of Thieves somewhere.
Yeah, because he's quite like a middle of the road guy in Germany.
Yeah, and
apparently
people on Reddit or something
describing
him as like the James Corden or something.
Yeah, which as if you listen to the Montauk Project episode of our podcast, you'll know our opinions of James Corden.
Listen to it, because me, Sam and Kane are actually diehard James Corden fans. We've got matching Smithy from Gavin.
Mine says JC, and it's got a big cross for the like
Jesus Christ.
The James Corden cross. That's what I was told it meant anyway.
Oh, okay. I think
the guy who
got duped by the church.
The guy who tattooed. Yeah, he did have one of those little tattooist collars on. You know.
Oh yes,
the black and white. Yeah,
the tattooist collars.
Yeah. And I drank some wine as well. It's pretty good. Anyway,
that joke got so silly it nearly killed me. Cool.
You've got to talk about your things.
I was thinking.
Projecting?
I can't think of anything I've particularly watched. Me and Christine watching lots of Modern Family, but there's not a lot to say about that. Yeah. Actually, we did watch the first 2 episodes of the new season of Doctor Who.
Right, okay. Flux, is it called?
Yeah, it's Doctor Who Flux. It's like for the first time, like a season-long storyline.
Is it like 5 or 6 wrapping up Jodie Whittaker?
Yeah. And the first episode's set on Halloween.
Did you watch the previous ones with her?
Yeah, I haven't missed an episode of Doctor Who since it came out in 2005.
Okay, so I stopped watching halfway through Capaldi, watched the first 2 episodes of Whittaker, and haven't watched any since. So I've really let the side down.
So me and Christine were actually saying during the first episode that like it's a shame, because I think Jodie Whittaker is a good doctor.
Yeah,
I think she plays it well.
Yeah,
but Chris Chibnall couldn't like write himself. Like he couldn't write his own name.
Yeah, well, the fan response is a mixture between SJW, woman hating stuff.
Yeah, I mean
anti SJW, which is in inverted commas because I don't believe an SJW is a thing that exists.
Yeah,
but
there was the thing that came out that like before the first episode of Jodie Whittaker was aired, that entire season had like 3-star ratings on IMDb.
Yeah, well, it's the same. This is the same thing that happened with Eternals, and that's why it's so hard. And Captain Marvel, anything with women or minorities, for some reason,
apparently isn't popular. Because it's not relatable.
It's not relatable.
You can only relate to white men.
White man. Oh God, I just don't know where to get this through these heads.
But I think Jodie Whittaker, it's similar to Peter Capaldi in that, like, I think they're good doctors with poor writing.
Well, Russell T Davies is coming back, isn't he?
Yes.
So,
although I did see an article saying that he's gonna right in the style of modern Doctor Who, and I was like, oh no, Russell.
But he is modern Doctor
But I
Who.
mean, is he though? Like, I get it. Like, it is the modern era, but
he's like 2005
I just
modern.
want you to rewrite like seasons 1, 2, and 3.
What was it? It was something I was listening to, where they were saying that they reckon that Russell T Davies could pull human David Tennant back into it, because you know the alternate, which is like, I imagine that's like a dream of yours.
Oh yeah, like my
alternate reality.
David Tennant Doctor Who remains one of my favorite eras of TV ever.
And like, the rose and all that with the wall and all that, that's probably like heartbreaking. Lewis's heartbreaking moments on YouTube.
But I feel like this season's gonna be a very like the best, because of course, first episode, there's like one scene with the Weeping Angels, because they stick the Weeping Angels and everything.
I think they're in another episode too. There's something called Something Angels.
The second episode is Centaurans.
Right.
And when it came on,
was it like the Napoleonic?
Crimean War.
Crimean War, yeah.
Because Mary Seacole's there.
Right, yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, I love the Centaurans. And Christine was like, I hate the Centaurans.
Yeah, they look like annoying potatoes.
They've like redesigned them a bit, and they're less like rounded and more like potato, like actual potatoey, like all a bit crumpled and stuff.
I just think
their legs and stuff are a bit narrow.
What's the one with the people with stuff sticking out of their faces? Is that the Halloween one, or is that another?
one? So that I think
like they're spooky people.
I think they are the ongoing villains of the series.
Yeah, because they're like, "Don't you remember us, Doctor?" I follow them on Instagram. Not those people. I don't follow. I follow those aliens. I follow the Doctor Who Facebook page and stuff, and they pop and there's they look quite cool. They had like crystals coming out of their faces and stuff.
And Bradley Walsh has gone, which shame, because Bradley Walsh was fantastic.
Yeah,
and
I
he
do
actually
quite like him,
is a good actor as well.
So, because originally with Jodie Whittaker, does she have 2 seasons or just the one?
I think she's got 2.
Because originally it was like she had a whole lot with her, didn't she?
Yeah,
she had Ryan,
Bradley Walsh, and Yasmin. And Bradley Walsh is Ryan's step granddad,
that's right. Because the grandma's in the
she dies in the first
episode. Yeah.
But so though Ryan and Bradley Walsh quit at the end of last season, so it's just Jodie Whittaker and Yasmin.
Oh, great.
But then they pick up John Bishop.
Right,
the comedian who I'm not really sure if he's acted before, but
he was one of the in Skins season 3 and 4, he was the twins' dad.
Right, of course. I did notice though, like in the first episode he introduced, they constantly, because it's in Liverpool, because he's from Liverpool.
Right.
They reference Liverpool Football Club like all the time.
They're like, I'll be on the show, but you have to.
Yeah, and Jodie Whittaker's like, oh yeah, I've watched the Barcelona game like 10 times. The Klopp era is like something to remember, and I was like,
would she be like that?
Yeah, like John Bishop definitely asked this, didn't he?
She's from what, Yorkshire, is she?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sheffield or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. Not the same place, but you know.
Sheffield's in Yorkshire.
Yeah, no, I mean, as Liverpool, I mean.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like the first 2 episodes are like, it's like the plot's kind of interesting. The dialogue is terrible. The special effects aren't very good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shorter season, so they probably, from what I saw, it looked quite like.
On the next week, it's Cybermen. So I think they are literally going to do like all the classic villains, and then probably the last episode will be Daleks. And
so, do you think we're going to get a regeneration at the end?
I imagine so.
Because there was odds,
I don't know.
There was odds on Years and Years guy, Ollie something. You know, the band, he was in that It's a Sin, which happens to have Russell T Davies as the writer.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you. Why did I search Years?
Anything?
No, I've just weirdly enough come up with a TV show called Years and Years, which was also done by Russell T Davies, which is kind of confusing me. There's a bit of a conspiracy. Ollie Alexander is who I'm thinking of.
Right.
He's quite a young guy. He's a young gay guy, so it would be a good direction to go for them.
Whilst you're there, can you look up Next Doctor odds to see if there's any other names thrown in the hat apart from Ollie Alexander?
While we're here. Next oddschecker.com.
Oddschecker.com, you love it. I'm not a gambling man, but it's good to see what people think.
Oh, because didn't they have that other doctor that was the like middle-aged black woman who was like in an episode.
Yeah.
What happened with her?
I can't remember.
Was she actually the Doctor? Was it a trick?
I think she was the Doctor from the future, but maybe they'll skip over it.
Right, okay. So, number 1 on here is Lydia West.
Who is Lydia? I don't know why I'm expecting to know these people.
I don't know if you'll recognise her at all. She was in Dracula is in the Modern Day, that programme about Dracula, which was by Stephen Moffat.
Okay.
Number 2 is Ollie Alexander, who is the one who I just mentioned, who is the front man and I think solo member now of Years and Years. Young guy. Just showing Lewis pictures of them there.
Yeah.
He was also in Skins at some point as well. Number 4 on here is Michael Sheen, who I don't think I need to show you a picture of.
Did you skip number 3?
Number 3 on here is Michael Sheen.
Michael Sheen is in the guy that always plays Tony Blair.
The guy who always plays Tony Blair, the guy who seems to be friends with
David Tennant.
He
would be good.
He would be very good.
Him
and then they can do David Tennant and Michael Sheen meet each other, and they would definitely do that.
It'd be like the 3rd show they've been in together, because they did Good Omens and then they did their Pandemic
online one.
Yeah.
Looking through, just skipping ahead. Hannah John Carmen is Ghost from Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Oh, yeah.
Be quite a good one. Reese Ifans, the Lizard, amongst other things.
Oh, the Lizard.
Yeah, he's quite good. He's quite quirky and eccentric.
He's been in a few other things. But
Richard Ayoade would be amazing. I don't think he would do
He's
it.
one of those people have said would be the Doctor for like a decade.
It's just because he's a bit like weird.
He's a bit quirky and a bit weird.
Ben Whishaw, who I think most famous now is Q, and also I think the voice of Paddington Bear.
Is he?
Which I know we also talked about last week.
Yeah.
Matt Berry, IT Crowd, the second boss.
Long hair. Oh, Matt Berry.
Yeah,
Matt Berry. Oh, great voice.
Oh, Maisie Williams.
She's been in Doctor Who.
She's also been in Lenny Henry, because there was a sketch of Lenny Henry's show, one of his comedy shows in like the 80s or 90s, where he played the next Doctor, and the part of the joke was that he was a black guy, and it was like too early for it kind of thing.
And let me guess, we're at like 40-1 or something.
Oh, I'm skipping through. There's like Tilda Swinton in here. Like she's
Tilda Swinton would be a great Doctor, but she's far too big for it.
Yeah, Idris Elba. It's like, we might as well just not even be.
Yeah, fucking Tom Holland.
Richard Madden, who's also in the running for James Bond.
I did think Richard Madden would be a good Doctor, but he's more, like you said, he's more on the level of potentially being James Bond than being Doctor Who.
Sorry. Oh. Guess who I've got to here? 3 guesses.
3. Benedict Cumberbatch.
No, think podcast. Not as in they're not a podcaster. Think people we talk about on this podcast.
James Corden. Oh my God. He's also been in Doctor Who.
I know.
He's actually okay in Doctor Who. I quite like his character.
We've got like Gemma Arterton, Andy Serkis, Alice Eve, Benedict Cumberbatch is right there.
Yeah.
It's like these people. Olivia Colman,
Coleman would be good.
Actually,
but again, she's an Oscar winner.
And Domhnall Gleeson is the lowest on here.
Oh yeah, again.
Domhnall Gleeson's like more likely in a way, because but he's like less likely.
He's still like a Hollywood star, isn't he? But yeah, cool. I'm not going to go out and recommend the latest season of Doctor
Catherine Tate. And
She's also been in
Carey Mulligan, who's also been in Doctor Who.
Like, God's sake, people. Do they have no belief in continuity?
So at the moment, Lydia West is 5-2.
Cool. I don't really mind who it is. I'm more concerned about the writing than the actor.
I think they could do a night, getting in like.
You could get anyone in if it's written well, it'll work.
Absolutely.
The same. It really goes the other way in that, like, Jodie Whittaker and Peter Capaldi are both really suited for the role. It just wasn't written very well.
You could have David Tennant written by Chris Chibnall, and he would be crap. Exactly. It works both ways. But nice.
I will keep on.
Are you enjoying New Who Part 2?
It's fine. Doctor Who Flux.
Yeah,
is fine.
Doctor Who Flux. Yeah.
I'm not gonna say you need to watch it, but I will.
I think
watch
you should.
It.
Well, yeah, keep us updated, and
maybe I'll just come back at the end of the season and give you an overall.
I don't think I'll watch it. Like, I've got enough stuff to watch. I've only watched 2 episodes of The Sopranos, so like, to be honest,
Sopranos or Chris Chibnall's Doctor Who. I think we know which one's better.
It will never be. Doctor Who will never get better than that Cyberman episode in the grave.
Oh my god! So quick detour. When me and Sam were at uni, we were both watching Doctor Who at the time, and we decided to. I think we'd had a couple of drinks.
We definitely had a couple of drinks. I think we'd come back to my flat.
Yeah, and we were like, "Oh, there's a new episode of Doctor Who." We must have gone out on a Saturday.
I guess so. Yeah,
and then came back and like, "Oh, let's watch Doctor Who." And there was
I had like a little computer monitor.
It was the Matt Smith and Jenna Coleman era, because it's Jenna Coleman's boyfriend
Jenna Coleman
in the
was
show.
also with Peter Capaldi as well, so it could be early.
It may be Peter Capaldi actually.
Anyway, yeah. Gemma Coleman.
Because it's her boyfriend in the show
she's had
becomes
a
Cyberman.
She keeps going off adventures.
Yeah.
And she ends up having a boyfriend.
But
it's all
there's a bit where they're like walking through a graveyard, and it's really,
like
really spooky music. And me and Sam are sitting there like genuinely terrified. We
were very scared. And this is like we're like 22 at this point.
Yeah, and it
like,
felt like it went
kids.
on for ages, and it was only like 5 minutes. So we watched that episode.
The alcohol in the system really, you kind of build it up a little bit.
Yeah, but it was, looking back, it's quite funny.
It was fun.
It's not even a good episode. It just it caught us at the right moment.
There's a bit of body horror and stuff where you find out what's happened to the boyfriend, and it's it's a dark episode by Doctor Who standards.
Yeah, it's a known character becomes a Cyberman.
Yeah, but that sequence is quite tame if you watch it in the right mindset, which we clearly were.
Which I've gone back and watched, and I was like, I can't believe we reacted like that.
We were like practically like,
yeah, I'm pretty sure we were sitting on your bed, like watching it, like.
But that's what I mean. It'll never get better than that.
On that note, I think that's personal projects.
I think that is. So thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Project. If you enjoyed the episode, please tell your friends and family about us.
And you can also give a review, which is the best way to promote the show and to like help us out. If you want to get us to carry on doing what we're doing, the best way is to get more people to listen. So we get more of a following. We can then kind of guide the show in the direction that our fans want us to do.
Absolutely.
You can review on most wherever you listen, apart from Spotify, as we've mentioned. Spotify really needs to bring in a review system.
We happen to have most of our listeners on there.
But you can go elsewhere and give us a review.
Go on somewhere else. Go on Good Pods. Go on iTunes. Go on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, do all that. It'd be great to hear from you guys via the reviews. If you just want to talk to us, though, Sam.
Yeah. So if you just want to send us an email, maybe like a little write-in about your experience with one of our topics. Maybe you watched the Blair Witch like David, and then you went camping and saw a witch in the woods.
Maybe you grew up on the Zeta Project. Maybe you were one of the Montauk boys. Like, who knows?
If you want to tell us about your experiences, your project experiences, you can reach us at the projectpod@gmail.com. On Facebook and Instagram, we are the Project Pod. On Twitter, we are at that Project Pod. And on Reddit, we are the Project. And we are up to date still with our YouTube uploads.
We're not quite up to date on Reddit yet.
Not quite up to date with
My
Reddit.
My laptop's broken, but I'll get onto that.
But on YouTube, I think the best way is just to search for us. I actually tried it out, Lewis. I was searching Project Nim podcast, and we're like number 1 that comes up.
Well, hey,
I'm like, that's probably because of my algorithm, but still, it's a good sign. We haven't got many views on there still because we're pretty new on YouTube.
Yeah.
But some of them are doing quite well. Like, I think Project Power or Project X, to be fair, actually, it's Project X, has like hundreds of views. But I realized I think I put boobs in the tag. So.
I was going to say what, and then I remember the film. Like,
there's a lot of boobs.
Yeah, it's not inaccurate.
I go back on the tags.
It'd be weird if you put it on like the Zeta Project. But there is lots of boobs in Project X. So
you know, those people might have been listening to see if we talk about boobs, which we do.
We do talk about
so it's
boobs.
not an inaccurate representation of the episode. But yeah, there's spikes, which is good to know, because in hindsight we can look at, which we know already, the popularity of episodes. But you know, it's a less interactive way of what we're asking.
The more people you get involved, the more accurate we can be on what parts and what shows are more successful than
others. As Lewis said, shaping the kind of future of the project, and knowing how to hit the right points for
contact
everyone.
Details. Obviously, if you've got a project that you're particularly interested in, would like us to cover,
absolutely,
whack us over an email or a tweet anything.
And the thing is, it doesn't have to be completely fresh for us. Like I said, we've done quite a bit of research, we've got a big list, but it's a lot of our work, in inverted commas, is figure out which ones to do next.
We've got enough content to last us to like 2030.
I think we figured out it's hundreds of episodes. So yeah, we want to know what you guys want us to talk about.
Yeah.
And if you tell us, we're happy to give you credit in the episode. We can say Jimmy McBishop from Harold's Heath.
Yeah, but everyone else that listens, apart from Jimmy McBush, you can also recommend stuff.
It's Jimmy McBishop from Harold's Heath.
Yeah, everyone else can also recommend stuff.
Yeah, you can do. I think that's everything for today. So thank you again for listening. Thanks for telling a friend. Thanks for you're very welcome, Lewis. Thank you. We'll see you. Well, we'll hear
you next week.
We'll speak to you soon. Bye.
Goodbye.